guys, welcome to Tales from a Retro Gamer, episode number 31. Now with all the excitement surrounding the Intellivision Amico coming out next year, and with this year being the 40th anniversary of the Intellivision game console, I thought I'd do a quick episode on the Intellivision. Now, the Intellivision was test marketed beginning December 3rd, 1979, and then it was rolled out to wide release in 1980 in the US. And I definitely remember friends getting the Intellivision in 1980. During this time, I was playing a heck of a lot of Atari 2600, Fairchild Channel F, and Odyssey 2. But I was really intrigued by the Intellivision. It was a sophisticated console. It had a controller with 17 buttons if you included the disc. And the disc was very strange to me. It was just kind of exotic, and it was so much different than the consoles that came before it. And the graphics for the games were obviously a leap ahead of what had come before. And so in particular, there was this girl that was going to my church in 1980. She got an Intellivision, rather her dad seemed to be, because him and his friend would play it a lot. And so this girl was a good friend of mine, and I would go over there. And usually when we were there, her dad, which was the song leader at our church, and the preacher would be over there because they were good friends, and they would be playing Intellivision. They'd be playing NFL football, Major League Baseball, and Las Vegas Blackjack Poker, which came with the console. That was the pack-in title with the console. So I remember going over to the lot, and it seemed like when we would want to play, they would be playing it. But I was intrigued, I enjoyed the games, and they were such an advance over what had come before. However, I still preferred the fast action games of the 2600, the simplicity of some of the sports titles. Like I loved Odyssey 2 baseball. I would play that with my cousin Marty. And so anyway, as time went on, I started dating this girl, and I was 14 and she was 16, and it was really cool. You know, that was a big deal to me, you know, dating an older woman or whatever. That was exciting, but it was just as cool. I mean, she had her own car, and so we could go to Six Flags without, you know, having to get a ride from our parents and go out or whatever to eat. And so that was really neat. But it was just as exciting to me that she had an Intellivision, because I had a few friends with Intellivision, but none of my close friends had it except for her. So that was really neat. But like I said, I was still into, I preferred the Odyssey 2 and the Atari 2600 to the Intellivision. Now that started to change a little bit in 1981. In 1981, Mattel rolled out some more action-oriented games, some more simple games, some more space games, things that I preferred over the complex simulations. So the games in particular, so I remember, so speaking of, I grew up going to church. I mentioned, you know, that my girlfriend at the time, her dad was the song leader, and the preacher would come over to her house and they would play games. They would hoot and holler and playing the Intellivision. So I did grow up going to church Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night. So, you know, like, especially in the summertime, it kind of bugged me because I remember, you know, just playing outside and my mom calling me in, time to get ready for church. That was always kind of a bummer. But we did have a lot of really fun youth activities. And to me, the services were boring. I didn't like sitting there. I didn't, you know, it was just quiet, and it was just sort of formulaic, and it was just dull. But we had a ton of fun youth activities. We'd go out to eat pizza and play the arcades, you know, and we would go bowling and roller skating. One church member, actually this family of the girl I was dating, they had a farm about an hour or two away, and so we would go camping and do all this great stuff. Tons of fun youth activities. Well, one activity in particular was a sleepover at the youth director's house, and it just so happened he had an Intellivision, and this was in 1981. And this one, you know, I'd played all the sophisticated sports simulations and some of the strategy games, some of the board games on the Intellivision, and they were fun, but again, it seemed like more an adult console and not as fun as the Atari 2600. But in 1981, when we went over to play, so it was a sleepover at my youth director's house, and of course, obviously, it was all guys, and we were just doing goofy guy stuff. I remember going out in the front yard and wrestling, and just, you know, I think we watched a movie, went out to eat and stuff, or had pizza delivered. I don't even remember that. But what I do remember distinctly was he had an Intellivision, and again, this was in 1981 when the television was the, you know, newest, most cutting-edge system. He had 3 games that just really fascinated me. He had Astrosmash, which was sort of a Space Invaders, Asteroids amalgamation, Space Armada, which was a Space Invaders clone, you know, a game I was very familiar with and loved, and Star Strike, which basically seemed to me like a Star Wars game. So there were 3 really fun space games for the Intellivision, shooters, and so suddenly the Intellivision was much more cool and much more fun in my eyes. And so we stayed up all night playing Intellivision. I remember Astrosmash in particular is kind of an easy game. You know, it's a fun game. It's a very popular game. Sheldon wore the T-shirt on The Big Bang Theory. You know, it's a very fondly remembered Intellivision game, but it was rather easy. So I remember sitting up all night after everybody had gone to bed and playing Astrosmash, and one game could really last a long time. So anyway, that experience, you know, that one sleeper at that house, you know, changed my view of the Intellivision. I was really excited. There were more action-oriented games coming out for it, and that led to more action-oriented games like Burger Time, one of my favorite climbing games, Diner, the console sequel to Burger Time, Lock and Chase, a cool maze port, you know, maze game. It was a great port. Bump and Jump, which was just a phenomenal port for the Intellivision, a great action-oriented demolition combat racing game. Tron Deadly Discs, and my favorite Intellivision game of all time, Beauty and the Beast, which is again another great climbing game. So again, you know, I remember the very early days of the Intellivision, and it seemed like an adult console. I remember the George Plimpton commercials, and it just sort of seemed more sophisticated for grown-ups, and the fact that my girlfriend's parents were playing it more than the kids were, again, made it seem like, you know, a console for grown-ups. But then when they started coming out with the space shooters and the more action-oriented games, that's when I really started loving the Intellivision in '81. All right, guys, I want to ask you guys, what was your first impression of the Intellivision? Did you play it back in the day? Did you just play it later? What did you think of the disc controller? What was your first impression of the Intellivision? All right, guys, so real quick, I want to talk about last week's episode, the comments. I asked you guys, what did you think of Tron, the film, and the game? And I got a couple of interesting comments here. Huge fan of Tron. So Eugenio Anguaria said, I love the original Tron, speaking of the movie, and I did like Tron Legacy, which was the sequel. The follow-up animated Tron Uprising was well done and canceled too soon. Now, personally, I hate to say this, I've never seen Tron Uprising. I really need to correct that. And another comment, Rohan Padiyar, sorry if I got that name wrong, he says, greetings programs. So he's speaking in Tron lingo. He goes, I played the arcade Tron and disc of Tron when I was a kid. Now I got them both on my Xbox 360. I also got the Tron Runner game on my PlayStation 4. I've still got Tron 2.0 for the PC and Tron 2.0 Killer App for my Xbox. The Game Boy Advance version has the classic Tron and discs of Tron included. I always wondered why the Xbox 360 version didn't have those two games on it. Weird. And he says, I've also got Tron Evolution for my Nintendo DS. End of line, he says, again with more Tron lingo. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching this episode. Thank you for liking the episode, and thank you for subscribing to the channel. I really appreciate it. We will talk to you guys next week. Peace out.